Namaste India and Namaste World. We bring to you yet another edition of Dekho Apna Desh webinar series, and we are so happy that today we are taking you to the outdoors. Everyone's been sitting inside their homes, keeping themselves safe, and of course, it is still time to keep safe, but it's also time to start stepping out and start looking after your health. And that's why we thought, what better than to take you to the nature park and just take deep breaths of oxygen and learn to live with the trees, the flora, and the fauna of none other than going right into the heart of India. Literally, if you could measure, I think you would be in the center of India, so to say. It is said that in Nagpur there is that center milestone point that is actually there. And so we're just going to step out a little from there and take you today to Tadoba National Park. I'm sure Tadoba is known to a lot of you, but for all those who don't know about it, well, you should know about it very soon. And bringing us today, the journey from Tadoba, and of course, the journey that he started as a very young kid to a father who's a zoologist and to a mother who came from a very pretty little village. And he mentioned that he would go for summer holidays with his mother, and there was the Megha Tiger Reserve, if I got the name right, and also Chikaldhara, which we all know is a very pretty little, it's almost like a hill station kind of a place. And so with that background, he started wondering at a very early age that why did he actually have to do education through books alone? But of course, books were required, so some bit of academic work was required. But very early on, our speaker and presenter today, Indrajit Latte, born in Pune, but started the journey of traveling the world of nature. And he will, of course, be sharing with you far many more details on the umpteen trips that he's made, not just to Tadoba, but has also been to Leh Ladakh, the Seven Sisters of the Northeast, and just about Lakshadweep, Andamans. I think Indrajit has been everywhere. So he's a treasure, and he's a literal treasure trove to talk to us about his journey on how he became a naturalist by profession, first maybe by default, and then he started working in camps. He joined the World Wildlife Foundation at Pune, did lots and lots of work with them at the ground level, later went to Kanha in 2004, and again had lots of camps with children over there. And that's why he is going to tell us a little fable around Mowgli from Kanha. And of course, we'll talk to you, Indrajit, on a few other things as we talk along. But for now, Indrajit Latte, welcome to Dekho Apna Desh. And viewers, this is one part of our country which remains quite explored, but still underexplored. So let's go on this beautiful journey. Let's sit in the Jeep, 4 at a time for now. But in any case, that's the way to travel. Welcome, Indrajit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dekho Apna Desh team for asking me to do a small talk on Tadoba National Park. Like ma'am said, I'll just take you on a small journey. So I'll...
Indrajit, are you going to tell everyone to wear their mask and all that?
Yes, I definitely will ask them.
Sunblock and a hat, maybe?
I definitely will ask them to do that. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So yes, so this is, I think, one of the most important parts of the state which is there, which is wildlife. We were just talking, in fact, a little bit before, where we realized that it is not as big as other tourism areas like cultural tourism or religious tourism, but wildlife tourism in India has started off in a pretty big way. And we are, if not on par, at least getting to the kind of facilities and the kind of exciting sightings which Africa also has. So we can also have the same kind in India also. So I'm just going to start my presentation with one of the most beautiful tiger pictures which I had got when I went to Tadoba for the first time in 2005, when there was hardly any tourism or organized tourism over there. Okay. So a little bit about India. India is a very wildlife rich state. There are close to 50 tiger reserves in India, and Tadoba is in the center of India in the state of Maharashtra. So if you see, this is where Tadoba is, and it's a very important park in India. Reason I'm going to explain to you at the end why it is a very important part. Tadoba is very rich in terms of tigers. It has got a very large population of tigers, which very regularly move from there onto the northern, southern, or the western part. For people having an needing an orientation, this is the state of Maharashtra, and Tadoba is, like I said, very much in the middle. Nagpur is the center of India, where the zero milestone is there. So we're just a little bit about 100 kilometers south or 120 kilometers south of Nagpur, where Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve is based. Roughly about 900 kilometers from Mumbai, but the closest airport is Nagpur. How to get to Tadoba and all that also I will share with you, which is the typical tourist information page, which I will help you all see. So this is the map of Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve. I'm going to get into a little bit of technicalities just to help people understand what a national park is, how is it demarcated, and what are the different zones in the national park. Because you could have heard about a national park which says that this is a core zone and this is a tourism zone and this is a buffer zone. So if you see in this picture, Tadoba National Park has got three big ranges. This is the Tadoba range in the northern side, Moharli range in the middle, and Kolsa range on the eastern side. So these three ranges encompass the Tadoba National Park core zone. What you see all around, which is in light green or purple and a little bit of yellow, is all the buffer zone. Buffer zone is needed over here for a reason, because if there is a lot of disturbance of animals or specifically tigers, they can very easily go from the core zone into the buffer zone, get stronger, and then come back inside to challenge the dominant male or the female of the national park. So that's how it is. Now, tigers are highly territorial, and once a female gives birth to, say, 3 or 4 cubs, they need to move and establish and make their own territories. Now, that can only happen if they have a chance to, enlarge their own territory. So that's how the buffer zones function. Another reason why buffer zones also are important is because there are a lot of villages in the buffer zones where they've been there for centuries. Now, you cannot say that, okay, we are going to make this into a national park, please leave the village and go. So the villagers are going to be like, no, we've been staying here for even before your national park has come here. So to make them understand what is the reason and importance of having a core zone in a national park and how to enlarge the core zone, you need the buffer zone villages to move out. So buffer zones play literally the word which is like a buffer between the outside part where there are a lot of villages and land, and the inside part of the main core zone where there are wild animals which are highly protected. A little bit about the history of Tadoba. Tadoba is one of the oldest parks in Maharashtra. In 1955, it was established. But if you read the history over here in 1905, when the British were ruling India, there used to be the Gond kings which were there. And to get their taxes waived off, they used to invite people to come and hunt in their areas. So there were hunting permissions issued by them. In 1931, the permissions were withdrawn because they realized that there was hardly any game left over there. So they, stopped giving permissions to people, and then they declared in 35 this place as a sanctuary for all animals except wild boar. Now, it's a very interesting thing, and the Indian wildlife story goes that wild boar were declared as vermin in these parts because they used to come and dig up a lot of the fields and eat a lot of the crops. Hence, the wild boar were looked at as not wild animals, and you could still shoot them. Again, between 35 to 42, because of protection, the spotted deer increased. And because the spotted deer increased, obviously the prey which went up, the predators followed, and a lot of leopards and tigers again came over here. So again, hunting permits were issued until in 55, the local Gond kings decided that, you know what, we don't want all this happening. And then there was a lot of influence of the local other small regions also. So in 55, in April, Tadoba National Park was formed. In 73, when Indira Gandhi ji, along with the late Indira Gandhi, along with a lot of other people, decided to make or decided to form a small project called Project Tiger, Tadoba was not one of the first few which was there. In 86, 86 to 89, that was the time when actually the Tadoba National Park and the Andhari Wildlife Sanctuary became really a big one. And close to about 93 to 94, it joined Project Tiger. So it's a very interesting story which it had. And currently, of course, it has a very large area, close to about 1100 square kilometers, which makes it one of the largest parks in Maharashtra itself. One of the first scenes which you will see in Tadoba as soon as you enter is a beautiful lake. And this is called the Talia Lake. And just a little bit of the landscape of Tadoba. It's one of the most beautiful landscapes which is there. Tadoba Lake is, the Talia Lake is a man-made lake. And it was made because the farmers over there required water for irrigation. So this was a very old lake made, and there is a small outflow which goes into the village, and people can use that water for their irrigation. But it helped animals because in the lean summer months, when temperatures go close to about 46 to 48 degrees Celsius, all animals and wildlife congregate around these water holes. So this is one of the beautiful parts of the park which is there. Another beautiful landscape which is there is a beautiful grassland. These grasslands were formed when there used to be agriculture over here, and the villages here were relocated and taken outside. Predominantly, it's a dry deciduous forest, so you will not see a lot of evergreen trees, especially in the months of summer. So animals find it very, very hard to understand and figure out the temperature difference. In the winters, it can go as low as 3 degrees Celsius, to the summers where it can go as much as 45, 46 degrees Celsius. So animals find it really hard to manage in that environment. Here you can see a beautiful photograph of a tiger walking through a small patch of meadow from one part of the other. This is in the month of February, which is one of the best times to visit Tadoba National Park. Monsoons are quite heavy. In about 2 months, you get roughly about 1100 millimeters of rainfall. And most of the times, the water flows into one of the two rivers which Tadoba has. One is the Andhari River and one is the Irai River. Both flow from the park and then eventually go southwards. Both are north to south flowing rivers. But the rivers are the main lifeline. Also, there is a lot of groundwater in Tadoba. So even in the summer months, you will have a lot of cracks in the rocks which will have water coming up because of capillary action. And these form the main important water holes for animals, besides the ones which the forest department has built to make sure that the animals in the summer months stay inside rather than move out looking for water and then go out into the villages. This is a beautiful male gaur which you can see. And I'm going to talk about the gaur a little bit ahead. This is a very interesting thing about Tadoba National Park, which I found it very intriguing when I went there in 93 for the first time with some friends of mine. Some of my friends were doing a research project over there. So I, of course, went and saw what was happening. On the safari, when you are driving from Moharli towards the central part of Tadoba, you will see these kind of pillars all along, nearly about 10 kilometers worth of these same pillars, which are made, and then on top of the pillar, you'll see a small wedge. And that wedge was what intrigued all of us a lot. And then we found out from local historians and local guides who helped us what it was. So this is something like an SMS system during the Gond Kingdom's time. What used to happen is Tadoba had a very famous cave, very big cave, which the local Gond king went to worship. It was a Mahakali cave. And when the king who was staying in Chandrapur wanted to go visit the cave, these pillars used to tell the pujari or the priest over there that the king is coming, be ready. So how did these pillars help? The wedge on top of these pillars had a rope going over it. So it just went from one pillar to the other, to the other, to the other, all along from the king's place to the temple. And when the king was coming, the guards used to pull that and send a message across, because this was, remember, a thick forest at that time. They used to send a message across telling the priest that the king is coming, prepare for the king to come. So this was a SMS system which was developed in the late 1800s to early 1900s. So it's a very interesting thing which was there. It's still evident, and whenever you go to Tadoba, you'll see these pillars still intact. One beautiful sign which will also welcome you to Tadoba is nobody can assure you a tiger, and that's the fun of it. So this is a very, very old a placard written over there, and I think it's very apt because our main aim to go to the jungle should not be only to see a tiger, but also see what the other things are. And of course, if it is in your stars and if everything is aligning correctly, you will also definitely get to see a tiger. Tiger definitely is the cherry on the cake. But to reach that cherry, you have to go through the whole lower strata all the way up over there. So this is a very nice poster, which all of you all, when you'll go to Tadoba, should be also be able to see it. We'll start off with some beautiful smaller creatures which are there in Tadoba. There are lots of species of butterflies found. So we've got close to 600 odd plants which have been recorded over there. We've got more than about 80 mammals which have been recorded officially. We've got 280 species of birds which are migrant, resident, and transient, which move out and come in also. We've got close to 54 species or 50 plus species of reptiles, of which 25 plus species of snakes. So it's a very biodiverse and a very rich place. You can see most of these butterflies in Tadoba, especially now in this time of the year, because the flowering plants are in full bloom, and these are the best pollinators which you'll get to see. And some of them are very aptly named, like the one in the right bottom, it's called a striped tiger, for a very simple reason that it's got the exact colors of the tiger. It's got orange, it's got black, and it's got white. So it's got a very nice one. The one on the right-hand top corner is called a orange tip. So some of them are very aptly named, but some are very, like the one in the middle, it's called a commander. So you don't know why and how that name has come, but it's pretty interesting. So you'll see these butterflies also hovering regularly, and you know when the butterflies are there, that means the atmosphere or the habitat is very, very pure and very clean. Some interesting birds over there. Of course, I'm not going to show you 280 birds, but just some interesting ones. On the right hand side, you'll see a very, very common bird seen. It's the parakeet. The one on the left hand bottom is a kingfisher. This is called a pied kingfisher, and it's called a pied kingfisher because pied means black and white, or it's got just basically two colors. And on top of that, you can see a beautiful owlet, very, very small. A lot of people think that owls are highly nocturnal, but not so. The jungle owlet, and the spotted owlet also sometimes, which we see there, are diurnal. That means they hunt during the day also. So you'll see them active and moving around pretty regularly in that area. This is the state bird of Maharashtra. It's the yellow-footed green pigeon. Very aptly named. It's got yellow feet, it's green, and it's from the pigeon family. So this is the yellow-footed green pigeon. It's the state bird of Maharashtra. Very, very commonly seen over there. A very interesting bird, resident of that area. So you should be able to see it very nicely. Again, they'll move in large flocks. You'll not just see one or two of them. You'll see maybe about 10, 12 of them flying along. One of the most pretty birds, which you can see in all of nearly the whole part of India, especially as soon as you get out into the countryside. This is the Indian roller, also earlier called the blue jay. Some interesting things about the Indian roller is it's called the Indian roller, or it's from the roller family, because the behavior or the mating ritual for this bird is during the breeding season, all the males congregate in one area to impress one female. How do you impress the female? The roller who wants to impress, he flies high up in the sky and he locks his wings and he rolls down and he comes very close to the ground, and just before he's going to hit the ground, he opens his wings and settles down. And that's supposed to impress the female. So that's why it's one of the reasons it's called the Indian roller. And it's a very beautiful bird, very territorial, very aggressive. They don't like other rollers coming over there, and they'll defend their areas really well. So this is the Indian roller. A bird which comes into Tadoba, especially in the summer months, migrates from the southern part of India to the northern part of to the central part of India. This is called the Indian pitta. It's also in Hindi called Navrang because you can literally count. It's got 9 colors on its body. Very very unique. You can hear the bird a lot in the forest, but you rarely get to see it because it camouflages so well. I mean, it's got red, it's got blue, it's got turquoise green, it's got light blue, it's got black, it's got white, it's got orange. 9 colors. Still in a forest, how can it be so hard to miss? But yes, it is very difficult to see. It's got a very interesting call. The call of the Indian pitta goes like this. So it sounds as if someone's saying line clear, line clear. So that's the territorial call of the bird. So it's a very interesting call which the bird does, line clear. So this is the Indian pitta. Like we saw a smaller owl earlier, we've got another larger owl, which is the brownfish owl. And this is a nocturnal bird. So here you're seeing it sitting in the same position, same post the whole day, unless it gets disturbed and flies off from one place to the other. But otherwise, it'll be sitting over here itself, roosting, just observing things, what is happening around. We're on a safari and we spot this bird and it'll look at us and again it'll close its eyes and sit the same way. So that's where the phrase wise old owl comes from, because it's just seeing people pass by doing their things and it knows everything what's happening around. So this is a beautiful bird to see. It's quite a large bird. Some interesting birds of prey. Birds of prey are birds which actually hunt other animals or mammals, rodents, or insects. The one on the left is a hawk eagle, and you can look at the eyes of that bird and you know that it means business. Very largish eagle and very an excellent hunter. The one on the right hand side is a little smaller bird. It's again a bird of prey. It's called the white-eyed buzzard. You can see the white ring around the eye. And hence it's called the white-eyed buzzard. It's a very swift hunter, and it hunts between the trees in the lower part of the canopy. It's a very important animal or a bird because it keeps check of population of rodents, especially in and around areas like these, in control. Very shrewd hunter. From the big birds, we'll move to one of the biggest bird found in Tadoba. It's called the gray-headed fish eagle. And you can see it's very aptly named. It's got a gray head and it specializes in catching fish. You can see the feet. It's got very large claws. They're called talons. So when you're in Tadoba at the lake, you can see a lot of times this bird is sitting up on a perch far away and it sees a fish way ahead. How it calculates from the time it takes off until it flies over the water, gets over the bird with its claws, picks up the bird and flies off is an unbelievable scene. It's just too good to see this bird. How the calculation is that the fish will come to the edge of the water, come up there and then go down again. In the meanwhile, I will come and I'll pick up this fish and fly off. So I've seen this bird hunt so many times, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. But just to see this bird trying to catch fish, which is its main diet, is really amazing. This is the gray-headed fish eagle, very large bird as compared to the other birds which are there. We come to the mammals a bit now. Tadoba, like I mentioned before, has got more than 80 species of mammals which are recorded. Some very rare and others very common. Highly endangered, some of them are. This is a ruddy mongoose. It's one of the lesser, smaller mammals which is found over there. It predominantly looks for ground-dwelling birds, eggs, things like snails and other things. Yes, like a lot of people know, it also likes to hunt and try and catch snakes also. They do it very regularly. We've also seen them feeding on a dead animal which is there, because they're basically flesh eaters. So we've seen them eating that also. So this is a ruddy mongoose which is there. One animal which you cannot miss, well, one of the animals which you cannot miss when you go into a national park are the monkeys. They are the heart and soul of enjoyment of the national park, always up to something. This is called the langur, or the black-faced Hanuman langur. They're always up to their antics, very, very social. Most of the time when the young ones are there, they're always moving around, playing and doing things like that. A very important aspect of their relationship is grooming. So here on the left hand side, you will see one of them looking at the stomach of the other and trying to take the ticks or the bugs off from the belly. And grooming helps bond the family members with each other. So here you can see them. They're also a very integral part of other things. Here you can see a spotted deer, which is the most common deer found in the park. It's called Chital, Chital, and this is a male. You know it's a male because in the deer family, only the males have antlers. The females don't have antlers. So all the deer in the country, whenever you see antlers on the deer's head, you know it's going to be a male. But in the next picture I will show you, there will be an antelope, which also has horns on male and female. So this is a spotted deer. This is the main food for most of the predators which are there in the national park over there. Their numbers vary a lot, and they're very, very successful breeders. And you can see them all over the park. They've got an amazing system where they give alarm calls, especially when they come in summertime to these kind of water holes. Here you can see a mixed group. You can see some males and some females, also some young ones which are there. Uh, these animals are always staying alert, and one of the reasons is because they are prey to most of the predators. So you will see a large herd of cheetah always there, and they believe in safety in numbers. So if you see just one or two animals, they'll always be shy, they'll be skittish, they'll be trying to move around, but they'll try and go and join a herd quickly, because they know that if there are more eyes, then they'll see danger much more easily. Danger can come in a lot of different forms. So what they do is they go close to where the langurs are. Langurs are the monkeys. The deer and the langur have got a beautiful relationship. The deer, of course, feed on the ground, but the monkeys, they also go up on the trees and feed the tender leaves. Now monkeys are quite messy eaters, so they'll break like 10 leaves, eat only one leaf, and the other 9 leaves they'll drop on the ground. And that's what the deer love to feed on, because the deer cannot get to those leaves. The deer in turn, what they do is, in case they see any danger, they give an alarm call, and any monkey who's on the ground or any langur who's on the ground quickly scampers up the tree. So that's a very symbiotic relationship which they have. So very regularly you'll see deer and monkeys together in the same way. This is the largest deer we find in India. It's called the Sambar Deer, Sambar. It's a highly, highly solitary deer, especially the males. The females, you can see them maybe in twos and threes, but not as community animals. It totally depends on three things for its survival. One is hearing, and for that you can see the ears which it has are very conical, and they move in nearly all directions independently. So it can collect sounds from everywhere. The reason they're conical is because the sounds get amplified and then they're carried into the ear so that the animal knows what's happening. The second most important thing is, of course, sight. They've got very good eyesight, but nose or the smell is a very, very key factor for them for their survival. So if they can smell what's happening and hear and then eventually see what's happening, they stay away from danger. An interesting story is, one of the forest officers, he had said that, I'd asked him that, which animal do you think is the most stupid animal in the forest? So he said the sambar is the stupidest animal. So I said, why? So he says that if the sambar deer sees a tiger, it gives an alarm call and it runs away. Now, after it has run away, it cannot see the tiger, obviously. So the tiger moves closer to the sambar. Because the sambar cannot see the tiger, the sambar comes back to the same place where it had seen the tiger last to check where the tiger has gone. And when it comes back again over here, of course, it's come closer to the tiger finds it a lot easier to hunt the sambar deer. So that was a story which he had told me. It's not always the case, but we've seen sambars very regularly being hunted by tigers. One reason is because they're quite large. They can weigh anywhere between 120 to 140 kilos. And because of the weight, the tiger can get food for nearly a week if it kills a big sambar like this one. So this is the Sambar deer. You can see it's totally covered with mud. In the summer months, the Sambar deer go into a patch where there is a little bit of water and they wallow in that. One is, of course, it cools them down, but after they wallow, what happens is it gets rid of the ticks and mites which are on their bodies. So after it dries up, along with the mud falling off, the ticks and mites also a lot of times fall off. Male Sambars like these go into wallows and they urinate over there, and then they wallow in that so that they can give out a smell, showing other male Sambars that these are all very strong. I'm a very strong animal over here, and you need to be careful of me. So that's what the Sambar deer does. That's why you can see it wallowing over here. A small deer which is there found in the national park. This is called a muntjac, Indian muntjac, more commonly called as a barking deer. Uh, it's called a barking deer because when it feels scared, it gives an alarm, and the alarm of this particular deer sounds like there is a dog which has just given a single bark. Amongst the three deer which we've seen, the spotted deer, the sambar deer, and the barking deer is said to give an alarm call only if it is sure that there is a tiger or a predator. The sambar deer gives it when it is scared, but the spotted deer gives it even if they think that there is some danger. So we as naturalists who go into the park, or when we tell tourists, whenever there's a muntjac or a barking deer alarm call, we are near guaranteed that it is seeing some predator. If it's a sambar deer, we think, yeah, maybe there is something there. But if it's a cheetal, we really have to understand, okay, is it really giving it, or is it just scared? That's why it's giving it. This is a muntjac, again, like I was talking. The male has got antlers, which you can see in this case also. The female of the same deer will not have antlers. The next one which I'm going to show you, which is a nilgai or the blue bull. This is an antelope. And antelopes are different from deers. One big difference is antelopes have got horns and deer have got antlers. So the horns which this antelope has, the nilgai has, are hollow. So if they break, they'll not regrow again. But the deer, the antlers every year are falling off and they put them on again. So that's one very big difference between the antelopes and the deer. This is a nilgai, a male nilgai, a beautiful one which is there, which you can see in Tadoba. It's quite large. It's nearly the size of a horse. Of course, it also stays and gives an alarm call whenever it sees a predator. It's more like a sneeze. So that's what it is. The haircutter's favorite, the Indian wild boar. They come with a very funny and a funky mohawk-like haircut. So these are omnivorous creatures. They eat anything from berries to roots and tubers. You'll always see them using their nose to dig up the soil, trying to go to a beautiful, very tasty tuber. In turn, what they're doing is they're aerating the soil by turning it and churning it around. So they're basically fixing a lot of nitrogen so that plants can get better and better nitrogen when they're growing. But more importantly, these guys are also pests. Well, not importantly, they're also pests to villagers who stay around national parks and forests, because they go at night and raid the crops. For example, if there is a big crop of, let's say, rice, they'll go into the plantation, they'll eat maybe a little bit of it, but they'll destroy a lot of it also. So these are the Indian wild boar, and they're in large groups. So typically you'll see maybe 2-3 of them there, but there'll be maybe about 5 or 7 of them hidden somewhere behind, and they'll all come out together. If you go into if you go and speak to the forest department staff and you ask them what are the animals which you're scared of, and you expect them to say an answer which is like a tiger or a leopard or something like that, they will not answer that. They will tell you 2 animals. One of the animals which they're scared of is the wild boar. And the wild boar they're scared of is because wild boars attack even when they're unprovoked. So, and because they're quite small and the center of gravity is quite small, they come out like a bullet. So it can injure someone pretty badly. This of course is not a full-grown adult, but a full-grown adult has got quite large tusks which are curved inwards, and they can injure animals pretty badly. we have known to have documents of tigers which have been attacked by a wild boar and eventually died because of its injuries. So wild boars are pretty quite dangerous in terms of even human beings. A tiger would love to hunt a wild boar because the blood of the wild boar is quite salty, and the tiger loves that blood. But then to hunt a wild boar, it's quite a big risk which the tiger takes, because the wild boars also don't give up. I mean, it's not like going and hunting a spotted deer or something where you can hunt it very easily. A wild boar will turn around and attack also. Hence, the wild boars are quite dangerous even for tigers. One of the largest members of the cow family in the world. It's called the Indian gaur, Gaur. People wrongly call it the bison. We don't have bison in India. This is the gaur, and very, very large animal. It can stand about 6 feet tall, and the males can weigh close to about 1200 kilos. So they are really massive, very large horns. Again, they are very, very, they stay in very large family groups. Groups anyway can range between say 4 animals to 22 animals, and very, very comfortable to be moving. I mean, they're not dangerous. So even if you by mistake get down and you don't know there's a herd of gaur there, the gaur will run away. The tiger has got a very interesting strategy on hunting the gaur. What the tiger does is, and in fact, and there are some tigers who specialized in hunting the gaur. What they used to do is the tiger used to stalk the gaur, an old one, not a young one, and not from the herd. So he used to stalk the gaur, and when the gaur is not looking towards him, he used to come very close and give a very hard bite to the hamstring. Once the hamstring of the gaur got injured, the gaur could not move and used to fall down. And after he fell down, then the tiger used to go for the jugular or the neck or the throat. And that's how he used to kill it. So we've had 2 or 3 instances when a certain tiger hunted the gaur the same way. So we realized that this tiger has adapted, and that's how he's killing the gaur. So it's a very interesting strategy which those animals evolved and adapted to. Tadoba is famous for 3 or 4 specific animals. Of one of them is the sloth bear. It's quite a aggressive animal, but it keeps to itself. You'll always see it putting its head down, walking very slowly away from you, trying to forage, look for termites, look for grubs, look for any interesting insects or berries which are there. It's predominantly a vegetarian, but if it finds flesh which is dead and rotting, we've seen animals eat that also. This is the second animal which the forest staff will be fearing. The first one being the wild boar. So the sloth bear and the wild boar both. The sloth bear more so because the sloth bear has got very poor eyesight. So abruptly, when you come in front of the sloth bear, it gets scared. And the only way of a sloth bear defending itself is by attacking you. You can see in the picture, it's got very, very long claws. It's got nearly 3-inch long claws. And it's a very strong hand which the sloth bears have. In fact, some villages in and around Tadoba, we've seen sloth bear attacks, and they're pretty gruesome. I mean, in one swipe, it can tear open your head and face. A very recent incident happened when some people had gone into the park illegally, of course, and they bumped into a sloth bear who had young cubs. And because the mother felt threatened, she attacked those villagers, and they got pretty badly injured, so much so that one of the person actually died. So they're quite aggressive, but if you just leave them be, they're as harmless as you and me. Tadoba had got a very interesting thing happening in the early 2000s. There was a crocodile breeding center which was developed in the park, and they released the crocodiles in certain parts of the park and certain parts of the state also. But the number of crocodiles has now reached a certain number which they wanted to achieve, so they've closed down the breeding center now. So in the park, you can see this mugger crocodile also in the local lakes. So Tadoba Lake is one of the largest lakes in the park, in the center of the park, and you'll see these reptiles basking in the sun, just waiting for the right moment, and they'll get in the water, and a deer who doesn't know that there's a crocodile he'll slowly come and pull it inside the water, and he'll keep it in the water and let it rot, and then he'll start feeding on it. So crocodiles are one of the most prehistoric animals we have after the Indian rhinoceros. So they're again very, very special creatures which are there. Coming to the lesser species or the cats and other predators now. This is a jungle cat. Jungle cat is nearly the same size of a house cat, but it looks much more leaner. It's got 3 or 4 rings on the tail at the end, and on the tips of its ears, there are black markings. So very, very special animals, very special ones to see and photograph. Very difficult to photograph because you'll always see them in the undergrowth. You'll not see them out in the open unless they're crossing the road or something like that. So this is a jungle cat, jungly billy, or as they call it. Tadoba is known for the second iconic animal, which is after the sloth bear, the wild dogs. Wild dogs are unbelievable hunters. They hunt in packs. The success rate of wild dogs is much more than any other predator in India. And one of the reasons because, like I mentioned, they hunt in packs. There are a lot of packs which are there in Tadoba in and around the park. And their pack system works on an alpha male and an alpha female. So those are the 2 leaders of the group. And then they've got other people, other members who are there. So they choose on a particular prey, and that's the one which they attack, eventually kill, and then they move off. They love to eat only fresh meat. They don't eat dead and decaying things. And so because depending on the group size, they probably will need to hunt nearly every day. They're also called whistling hunters because they communicate with each other during a hunt, especially by making these small sounds which sound like whistles to us, but they're communicating amazingly. So they're a little smaller than our regular dogs, a very typical black bushy tail, and just below the neck and downwards toward the chest, it becomes whitish in color. They're rusty brown dogs. In South India, there have been records where local people used to follow wild dogs because as soon as the wild dogs made a hunt, they used to shoo them away and they used to collect that meat. So the population of wild dogs started decreasing because they stopped getting regular food. And also they left that area and moved off, and then there were a lot of animal-human conflicts, things like that. But slowly and surely, wild dog population has made a good comeback, especially in Tadoba National Park. So this is the second iconic animal of Tadoba National Park, the Indian wild dog, locally called dhole, D-H-O-L-E. The third iconic animal for which Tadoba is known is the Indian leopard. This is one of my favorite cats. It's one of the only cats in the world which is adapted to staying in conditions more than 10,000 feet all the way to the sea level, from the rainforest to a dry deciduous forest like Tadoba, from evergreen patches.
Indrajit, sorry to interrupt you, but we're not getting to see the picture of the animal.
Did you see the wild dog?
No.
Do you see it now?
No.
You can hear me though, right?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, but we can't see the picture of the animal. In the share screen, I think probably something needs to be done. I mean, keep talking, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what is, which was the last picture you saw?
I remember seeing the sloth bear was before the sloth bear.
Sorry?
Before the sloth bear.
Before the sloth bear, okay. So after the sloth bear, you've got a crocodile. Do you see that?
No.
Okay, let me just stop screen sharing for a minute and then start it again.
Yeah, probably that'd be a good idea.
Just give me 1 minute. Okay.
So it seems some of the viewers can see. Bharti, can you confirm? Can you see?
Okay, now can you see a crocodile?
Yes, ma'am, I can see. I was able to see all the pictures.
Okay, great.
Oh,
the problem is coming on my side. Please go ahead.
No problem. Yeah, sure. So crocodile, jungle cat, Indian wild dog, or the dholes, and the leopard, which I was talking about. So this is a very unique animal which has adapted itself in all different kinds of environments, not only in India, but even the world. Maybe not specifically the leopard, but its cousins. Like you've got the jaguars in Pantanal, you've got the snow leopards in the Himalayan ranges, you got the pumas also there. So, lots of different varieties. So leopard is one very unique animal which has lived amongst the bigger cats of India, which is there. In India, there's another park called Gir where there are lions. So even there, leopards have thrived. So leopards are very, very good indicators that the habitat is perfect. Leopards are not really very large game hunters. You can a lot of times see them even hunt small hare or even peacocks. So they can live and hunt in such small animals also. Of course, the icon of Indian wildlife, the Royal Bengal tiger. It's mesmerizing. When you see the tiger for the first time, you just don't know how to describe it. And I still did not. I saw my first tiger when I was in Jim Corbett National Park. I was there with my school trip. And when I went over there, I just got a glimpse of it. I was in my fifth standard. And I still remember it very, very distinctly. I only saw the white and black belly of the tiger. So at that time, the image in my head was, I always was shown a picture of an orange tiger, but I only saw a white tiger. So when I came back from the safari, I told my parents I saw a white tiger, and they were like, you know what? I don't think you've seen a tiger. But that's the first image, and I'll never forget that tiger sighting. So there are some beautiful tigers which are named all over the country, and they are iconic in their own ways. Tigers are very, very territorial. They mark their territories in very different ways. Here you can see a tiger marking its territory by rubbing its cheeks and the claws, sharpening them, so where it has got certain glands and it leaves a smell. So it tells the other tigers that this territory is occupied. So these are tigers which are very large, typically male tigers. And these male tigers want to show that we are very strong, we belong to this area, and we are dominant. If you want to challenge us, you can always come and challenge us. So that's what keeps the tiger territories very intact. This is the most iconic tigress of Tadoba National Park. She currently has got 2 cubs. Her name is Maya, M-A-Y-A. If you go to Tadoba, you will definitely hear stories about her and how she has so successfully raised so many litters into the wild. She's also probably one of the oldest tigresses in India who is still breeding. The other one being in Pench, and there's another one in Bandipur National Park also. So she is Maya. Maya is the most famous tigress of Tadoba National Park, and a lot of tourists get to see her because she is very tourist friendly. So you'll see her in the tourism zone moving very regularly in that area. This is a photograph taken by my friend Jignesh. What had happened over here is, if you see the langur just under the right arm, you can see there's some blood which is over here. So this langur was injured, and this tigress, this tiger is actually a young one. He didn't know what to do with the langur, and the langur, once the tiger came, didn't know how to defend itself. So they kept looking at each other for a long time until the tiger just put a paw on it and he pushed it down. Of course, eventually the langur died, and then the tiger took it away. But it's a very interesting picture where the young tiger was just looking at the langur, not understanding, you're supposed to run away from me, but why are you just sitting over there looking away from me? This is one of the this is a very rare picture, again taken by Jignesh, who is a naturalist in Tadoba. They were on a safari, and they were watching wild dogs when they were running on a particular part in the park. The wild dogs group suddenly disappeared. They left the road and took a right turn into the bush, into the bamboo thicket. And then there was no sound for like 2 or 3 minutes. And then there was a quite low pitched shrill sound which came out, and out comes this tigress with a young pup of a wild dog in its mouth. What had happened is, this tigress was following those wild dogs from inside the bush, waiting for them to make some mistake. The minute the wild dogs left the road and went into the bush, the tigress knew it was a chance, and she went and picked up this pup. So it's a very rare image which is there, where one hunter is hunting the other hunter. So it's a tigress hunting a wild dog pup. It's a very, very beautiful image which I loved. A very common scene which you will see over there in Tadoba is one of the lakes, especially in the months of summer, the tigers using water as an attraction to hunt animals. Here you can see two Sambar Deer females running away from a tigress which was just starting to run into the water to get them. She eventually did not. But these are very, very common scenes, especially in the summertime. Summer probably is one of the hottest times. Hence, all animals congregate near the water holes. And because there's so much of congregation of animals, the tigers find it perfect for ambush. And that's what these animals are doing. Coming to the end, some very rare pictures which Tadoba has. This is again taken by Jignesh. This is a photograph of a leopard, but it's a black leopard. Technically, if you see in the sunlight, you can actually see the rosettes or the patterns on the leopard. But because of certain pigments which did not get enhanced, this leopard could not put out so many yellow colors. There is no problem in this leopard at all. It's a normal leopard. It hunts very successfully. This is called it's locally called a black leopard, but it's a melanistic leopard. That means the black pigment in the body is much more of a higher density as compared to the yellow color, and hence you can see some imbalance. But this is again a star attraction over there. To see a black leopard in a landscape like Tadoba, which is so starkingly brown, is quite unique. So I was telling you a little bit about Tadoba right in the beginning, on why Tadoba is important, and a little bit about the local cultures and things like that. If you see this picture, these are all the tiger reserves which are there in the central part of India. Now, if you look at the northern part of India, let me get my cursor. Yeah. So if you see from Nagzira, Pench, Melghat, all these national parks, the only way that tigers from this area can move south is through Tadoba National Park, one, because this is one key national park which makes a corridor from the northern side to the southern side. Another very important thing eventually which happened in Tadoba is Tadoba has become a very, very healthy and successful breeding ground for tigers. So tigers disperse in Indravati, which is in the eastern side, to Kaval Wildlife Sanctuary, Boar Wildlife Sanctuary, Nagzira, and even till Kanha. So they disperse very, very regularly. So Tadoba plays a very crucial role in becoming a big corridor from the north to the southern part of national parks. So Tadoba is at a very, very interesting juncture. The local tribal communities over there, which are the Gonds, they also played a very big part in making sure that the park could get established by successfully helping Forest Department getting them relocated from Tadoba outside. I was talking about a story with ma'am earlier before about the Mowgli story. So there was a very interesting story which I did not hear from Kanha, but I heard in Pench from one of the old guides. He said that his grandfather used to share a story where in Pench, which is just north of Tadoba, there used to be a case where a pack of wolves had actually picked up a young boy, and they'd carried him off, a small, not a baby, but like a 8-9-year-old. And they took him to the den. The boy survived for a couple of weeks before eventually dying. So that's one of the bases where probably the Mowgli story got evolved and written by Rudyard Kipling when he heard about this particular story. So Rudyard Kipling never actually came to specifically Pench, but he heard it from his own officers, and that's when he made the story of Jungle Book, because of which Pench and the other parts of central India became so famous as national parks. So they're like the Serengeti or the Masai Mara of India, because there are so many plains in the central part of India that the wildlife is very, very easily visible. If you go to the southern parts of the country, where you've got Bandipur, Nagarhole, Periyar and all, it's very thick and evergreen. So the line of sight or the visibility is quite low. Again, if you go into the northern part, if you go towards Corbett, that area, again, you've got a lot of, thickets and tree which are very dense. So the sightings are quite low. So the central part of India, which is all the way from Panna down until say Indravati, has got a lot of plains. So it makes wildlife viewing much, much more easier. I mentioned that I'll give you all some tourism related information on how to travel to Tadoba. Tadoba from Nagpur is only about 100 kilometers. It's got 5 gates which you can go to. The closest gate being the Kolara gate, and regular flights to Nagpur from all over the country. Chandrapur, which is there, which is the rail head, is quite close again. The best time to visit Tadoba is from February to April, because that's the time when the tigers are actually moving and they're in their best colors. As May and June comes, then because of the heat, it gets quite unbearable. And like I mentioned, the temperatures hover between 3 degrees Celsius in the winters to roughly 48 degrees in the summers. So it can get quite hot. There are a lot of different kinds of lodges and resorts which are there in Tadoba. The forest department has got it in Moharli and Kolara, and I've shared the websites with them. The MTDC is also there, which is a very old one, but it's a very good one. The location of the one which is there in Moharli is superb. It overlooks a beautiful lake. And when we stayed at the MTDC guest house, we actually heard at night tigers roaring. So that's how unique and beautiful it is. Then there are, of course, private resorts like Swasara, which is at the Kolara gate. The official website of Tadoba, which is there, I've just mentioned over there, mytadoba.org. It's one of the most updated websites I have seen from any of the forest departments in India. So much so that they've even put up guidelines on what are the COVID guidelines, how we are going to implement them, what are the guide training programs we are doing, how we educate our guides, and what are the other education platforms we have, not besides safaris. So there are walking safaris over there, there are night safaris over there. So all these things can be seen in that on that website, and you can definitely read about it over there. This is the official website, so you should be able to definitely get a good idea of it. The last picture before I close my talk is I've just got to thank some people who have also shared photographs with me, and also my references, mytadoba.org, which is the official website of Tadoba, and a lot of data is available in NTCA. NTCA is the National Tiger Conservation Authority, which was formed in 2005 and 6. So some of you all might have heard of Project Tiger. So Project Tiger was scrapped, and in 2005 and 6, NTCA took over as nearly the same guidelines, and they are the ones who look after and make guidelines and management plans for all the tiger reserves in the country. So that is what I wanted to just tell you. I've shared my email and my other accounts. So in case you want to get in touch with me, please feel free to do so. Thank you very much, ma'am, for letting me come on this platform and sharing a little bit about Tadoba.
Indrajit, I think we at the ministry and all the viewers are very, in fact, thankful to you. You have brought out the information so beautifully. And I'm sure all those who have traveled to Tadoba already want to do so. And all those who haven't are going to be truly planning in the times to come.
It is beautiful, definitely, ma'am.
And it is actually such an easy place to access, viewers. I have had fortune of visiting it at least 4 or 5 times, and you just land in Nagpur, and it's about and the road quality is extremely
very good, very nice. Yeah, it's literally 2 hours away.
Absolutely. And as Indrajit said, even if you were not to spot the tiger, we hope you do, but even if you did not, the sanctuary is so beautiful even otherwise. And I think the topography and the landscape of the sanctuary is just amazing. I mean, all sanctuaries are beautiful and they are unique in their own way. And so is Tadoba. I think so. A couple of things. Of course, there are lots of questions from viewers, but 1 or 2 thoughts, Indrajit, especially since you've been traveling to the different sanctuaries around the country and from very early age, is that number one, have we as a country really leveraged on the potential of the sanctuaries for tourism?
Okay.
And the related question, therefore, will be that if we were to do so, what should be the way forward? Because, there is the need for that sustainable development. And as you were observing before we started the webinar, that in a sense, COVID has given humanity a wake up call. I think we were interfering with nature way too much.
Yeah.
And we've had instances of animals stepping out and finally saying, oh, thank heavens the humans are behind.
Yeah.
Right? So how to really drive the development and how really to take it forward while also leveraging the strength of biodiversity in India?
So it's a very interesting question you ask. I'll answer it in 2 or 3 ways. One, the most important question which you're asking is what can India do to leverage or increase the number of people going into national parks? India probably is one of the few countries in the world where the whole national park is not open for tourism. Only 20% of the whole park is open for tourism. So if you're saying that only 20% of the park is open for tourism, what happens in the other 80%? We do not know. We are only believing that the forest department is saying, okay, it's safe, it's fine. There are a lot of tigers there, or not necessarily tigers, but there's a lot of wildlife there and everything is fine. One of the things which we can go ahead and do is open up the whole national park for people. Automatic patrolling happens. You can increase the carrying capacity of tourists. Tourists can have better experiences because you're not going to see so many jeeps in one place. All the jeeps will be spread because they'll all want to go, and at the end of the day, you want to have a nice, peaceful, quiet safari. You don't want to have so much of rushing around, tiger-centric safaris. The guides also get a chance to actually explain to people different parts of the park. So these are the kind of things which are very experiential. Going and seeing a tiger there is just a tick mark. But have you experienced the forest? No, you haven't. Because there are so many beautiful other parts of the park which are there. So that's one part of it, what we can do. Second part, which successfully most lodges and hotels in and around national parks are doing is getting help from the local communities. See, at the end of the day, it is their park. We are only investors who go over there. Now, if I'm a lodge owner, I'm going to build a resort over there. If I don't involve the local communities in employment, in small things like making someone a housekeeper, making someone into F&B, making someone a driver or a guide or even a mali, if you get them involved, they will know that they are bigger stakeholders over there. So tomorrow, if someone comes over there and says that, you know what, I want to poach an animal, the local person who's there, he'll say, no, you will not be allowed to, and I will report you immediately, because he knows if these animals disappear, tourism will not happen. So once that whole equation is understood in more ways than one, it will work out very, very well and amicably for both wildlife and local communities. Though in most places, like I mentioned, nearly 70% of the staff by default has to be local, is one of the mandates which the forest department has put, and the hotel associations which are there, they follow it very, very religiously. And they talk about it with a matter of pride when they talk to the guests about their lodges. That, you know what, of the 25 staff we have, 22 of them are locals staying within 2 kilometers. So that gives a big sense of pride for even the villagers who see people coming over there. They exactly know what's happening. So that's the second part. The third part, most important, is getting children involved in an effort to understand why and how conservation is done. If you tell a child in school that, you know what, let's protect the forests, we should not cut down trees because animals want it, the child is going to just learn that much and go back home. But if you've got education programs, experiential education programs, where you take the child or you take the school group to a forest and make them walk inside over there, explain to them what the problems are. I'll give you a simple example. Plastic is an issue. A lot of times people go into a national park and they eat a packet of whatever, chips or something like that, and ignorantly or knowingly, they might just chuck it outside. So what happens to that plastic bag? Because that plastic bag has got salt on it, a spotted deer will come over there, smell it, lick it a bit, find it's quite salty, try to eat it, chew it, and gulp it down. But the digestive system is not meant for that kind of a bag to come in. So it cannot poop it out also. So it gets stuck in the intestine. Eventually the spotted deer bloats and he dies. so many cases of even big animals as large as elephants, after they've had their postmortems to figure out what has happened to them, they've seen plastic in their stomach. So this is the kind of education which we can, if we just impart to the kids at the national park gates itself, it'll be amazing. And that's what also needs to be done. So the guides which are there in most national parks every year get trained on what is the kind of a thing which you should tell the tourists, how you can make the safaris more, enjoyable. If someone is more keen on birds, which are the areas which you should take them towards so that they can enhance their birding knowledge. Also now, a lot of guides have been given binoculars by lodges because that gives better experience to their own guests also. Plus the guides also, get known in a national park. Like I can name 10 guides from all different national parks who have, because of their own interests, have now developed over a period of time, and they want to have, they want to showcase their national park to the guests much more in a different way. So involving local communities is a very, very important part, which we are doing in a small way. I'm not saying in a very big way, but I think the key is to open up the whole national park for tourism. If you've got nothing to hide, why control it?
Right. I think viewers, isn't that such a sad and a shocking information? And I'm sure all of us will learn to be more responsible, that something as innocuous as just throwing a wrapper of chips
Yeah.
can actually lead to the death of an animal. So
Yeah.
apart from just being responsible, even otherwise, after all, the home that we say is a home is not the home where we live, but the world is our home, and it's imperative that we all treat it in that manner and give due respect to all other life that lives on Mother Earth.
Sure, sure,
But
sure. Yeah.
thank you so much for enlightening us on that. Bharti, I think you had a question for Indrajit.
Yeah, Indrajit, you are a naturalist for a very long time, like you are in jungles working with them for the last 28 years. So we are getting a lot of questions from the viewers that somebody wants to pursue this as a career. What is the way to go for it? Like, what is the basic education they need? What kind of training? And how one can
Sure.
apply for it?
Sure. So
Okay.
it's an interesting question. One of the most important things is there are a lot of interesting organizations which are there, both government and non-government organizations, which you can apply to, or you can just open up their pages and you can read about them, what their requirements are. The most premier institute in the country is called the Wildlife Institute of India, or WII, and the website is wii.org. It's based out of Dehradun, and each and every forest officer goes over there, gets training, and then moves into the field. So Wildlife Institute of India is one of the premier institutes. There are other institutes also in the southern part of the country. In Bangalore, there is NCBS, which is there. There are a lot of organizations which are there, which look after getting people to come and formally get academic degrees as such. Another thing which people can also do is whichever local hotels or resorts they go to, they can speak to the local naturalists over there on how you became a naturalist over here, what line of work did you do, so they can share their journeys. So it's not necessary that you need to be academically inclined to get into the field of wildlife. You can have a passion for it and just enhance the passion by exploring it a little bit more, talking to like-minded people, because that's how you will build a kind of a network and understand what is needed to make a career in it. When I made a career in it, there was no term as a naturalist as such. There was no career as such where you can become a naturalist or anything. But eventually now we've got very, very successful naturalists all over the country. They're making a very nice livelihood, following their passion. 100% all naturalists who are there working in lodges or working in other places are all purely doing it because of their passion, nothing else. Money is not the driving force, it is the passion. And rather than waking up in the morning and saying, oh God, I've got to go to work, you'd rather say, oh wow, I've got to go to work. So, I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Okay,
Absolutely.
one more question, Indrajit.
Yeah.
Now the parks were opened once the lockdown happened in March, and now slowly the tourism is opening up. People have started traveling. So, what are the changes you see once now somebody visits a park? So, what
So
was there pre-COVID? What is not there now, and what all, especially, or what are the parks are doing to ensure
uh,
that people have the experience?
as far as the human intervention is concerned, as far as the animal intervention is concerned, animals have stuck to the same routine. They're still doing the same things. They're still, moving around, doing whatever they're doing. But as far as the COVID thing has gone, in fact, all the lodges have taken, all the hotels have taken precautions. In certain parks, only 4 people are allowed per jeep. Like for example, Tadoba, only 4 people are allowed per jeep as compared to 6 in other national parks. If you're with a group of unknown people, only 4 are allowed. But if you know the families and things like that, if you know each other, 6 are allowed in a jeep. Masks are compulsory on all safaris as soon as you enter until you come back. The drivers and guides get tested before they get into the national parks. Once you get out from the national park, again your temperatures are taken and you're tested again. So this is going to be the new normal now, where you're going to live with it. In fact, a lot of jeeps which are going into the parks also are sprayed with disinfectants before they get into the national park. So all these things are happening, which are so-called the new normal. So all the national parks which opened on the 1st of October, and my wife and I, we were one of the few who got to go into Kanha National Park and see a tiger, of course, on the first day itself. So we know that the jungle animals are all ready for us. Are we ready for them?
So how very wonderful. I think, Bharti, that answered your question really well. And so it's time to start traveling, viewers. And as Indrajit said, there is a new normal and we need to respect that new normal. In fact, the Honorable Prime Minister himself flagged off the Jan Abhiyan, reminding all of us the need to not become complacent. We've managed to come a long way in beating COVID-19, but still a lot needs to be done at our part. Make sure you wear your mask. Make sure there is a do gaz ki duri. Do not crowd places. And also do remember to wash your hands every now and then and disinfect. And if you do notice some symptoms, please be responsible and self-isolate. So I think if we work together as a community, as a country, we shall beat COVID much sooner than it seemed in the first place. But in the meantime, nothing stops you from visiting Tadoba. It's such an amazing place, the amount of flora and fauna in a short presentation that Indrajit could show. I'm sure that has whetted your appetite. Who doesn't want to go and see the sloth bear and the wild dog and the butterflies and the birds and simply the atmosphere? I think just head out, step out and enjoy the journey. So thank you, Indrajit, so much. It's been an amazing
Thank you very much, ma'am.
journey. It's been wonderful having you with us. We hope you shall do another one with us from another sanctuary. And next Saturday, viewers, from the heart and the center of India, we're going to take you to the northeast. We're going to travel to Nagaland. Don't miss joining us 11 a.m. on the 17th of October. In the meantime, keep healthy, keep safe, and देखते रहिए हमारे साथ अपना सुंदर अतुल्य भारत. And thank you once again, everyone, for joining in today. Namaste.
Thank you very much.